So what you see me working on in this video is a sheet of silicone, which is an alternative for tattooists to train on rather than people or animal skins. The silicone is quite a bit tougher than actual skin. The ink doesn't spread the same way, and it's difficult to actually get your ink to pack into it. But it's an excellent way to get a handle on how to hold your machine, get used to the vibrations of it, controlling your needle depth, and understanding how to do techniques such as line work or shading before moving on to training on real people. So since this is a color piece, and I'm going to be doing some pretty light, airy color, I'll have to include some definitive lines to help contain that color, because color ink, basically, even after it heals, like, it just wants to spread. It doesn't want to stay put, so it's good to have, like, basically they're like walls, for color ink, so you want some good lines in there to act as a wall. So I'm using a 7 bug pin round liner for my main outline. Essentially what this means is it's a grouping of 7 small needles, very tightly put together. And the bug pin means that that gauge of needle is smaller than a standard round liner. Basically, a 7 bug pin is just a super solid needle. It creates like a nice smooth line that's not too thick, but is still solid. So in tattooing, there are a lot of different ways to approach color. So I'll really just be going over one method that I've been learning in this video. There are so many different ways, though, I can't stress that enough. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm starting with all of my darkest colors first. And the reason why you do that is when you're tattooing, sometimes it's easy to forget that where you've placed ink is technically like an opening now in the skin. It's an open wound. So if you start with your lighter colors and then suddenly introduce black, that black can actually just like seep into that color and muddy it. It can get into that opening and heal. Say you have yellow down and then some black wipes in, that can muddy the color permanently. So I'm opting to start by laying down all of my dark colors first. That's why I started with the blue tones first and then moved on to like the darker reds. And then gradually from there start building up the pinks in the ears and the tail, the like lighter browns in the fur, everything like that. The technique I'm using to actually apply the color is a whip shading technique. I like using this for a couple reasons. In my work, I like to use pretty soft color. So this allows me to build up like a soft gradient rather than having all of my color be completely packed. It's also really nice for color blending. So since you're starting solid when you put your needle down and then just whipping that needle out quickly, it kind of gives everything a smooth gradient. So you can see once I start adding in the yellow around the lantern and sort of whipping that out toward where the brown for the fur is, they meet fairly nicely in the middle because there aren't any solid lines anywhere. So you can see that I didn't pour my color inks out at the beginning of the tattoo, and the reason for that is because color ink actually dries up a lot faster than black ink. So I poured them once I actually wanted to start coloring, just to make sure that they were as fresh as possible, especially inks that have a lot of white content. They'll dry up much faster, so sometimes you'll just end up with a hard layer on top of the ink, which is not ideal. So there's the piece. As you can see, even for a small scale piece like this, there are a lot of variables to consider in color tattooing. Just between making sure that your inks aren't drying up and they're flowing smoothly through the tube, and that you have enough contrasting colors in your piece, as well as the order that you lay down your colors. There's a lot of aspects that go into it. I find it really enjoyable. Color tattooing it has a lot of like problem solving, but it's a lot of fun. Thanks for listening.